first law today that I'm going to train on is called the law of the Big Mo. The law of the Big Mo. And you're going to find out, and this is not on your paper because this was from last week. A lot of you, I know, brought your notes from last week. Okay, if you don't have notes from last week, just write down everything that we say, and you'll be set up for success. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and train on today the law of the Big Mo. Today, we're going to train you on the law of the Big Mo. And what the Big Mo says is basically that momentum is a leader's best friend. Okay, success in our business is going to be is directly connected to our ability to create momentum. How do you create momentum? We're going to talk about it today. The good news is, for all of you, I've studied this topic like nobody's business. I've studied this topic so much because I know, guess what, how important momentum is. Momentum is everything in our business. So how do you create momentum? Well, first off, we got to understand what it is and how it works. Obviously, right now, the first thing you got to understand is this: the law of the Big Mo. Momentum is a leader's best friend. Momentum is a leader. Success, you guys, sometimes in our business, you'll see people that will get involved, that will become wealthy just because of momentum. Yeah. And they really, and I can name off people's names in our business, not in our company, but in our industry, that made, $3 million their second year in network marketing, not knowing what they're doing. Okay? But they had no idea what they did. They just lucked out because of momentum. Because of momentum. And they didn't know how they did it or what they did, and they could never recreate it again. But you got to realize that, guess what? Momentum is everything. In our business of network marketing, momentum is everything. Because momentum is basically, what momentum is when people are playing better than they really are. Momentum is when people are performing better than they really are. In sports, they say it's called performing over their heads, where they're just doing way better than they really are capable of doing. Okay? When you have momentum, it's kind of like this. Momentum is the great exaggerator. Meaning what? Meaning that if you have momentum, guess what happens? You look unbelievable as a leader. And number two, if you have momentum, your people perform at an optimum level, which means that they maximize the compensation. So how do you create momentum? How do you develop momentum? How do you get momentum working for you? Let's take a look at it, okay? First thing we got to keep in mind is this, is when you have no momentum, even the simplest of tasks seem impossible. Let me explain to you guys what this is. There's different types of momentum. There is positive momentum, okay? There is negative momentum, and there's no momentum. Okay, no momentum is bad, okay, but not as bad as negative momentum. Negative momentum is actually whenever you're performing if you should be performing here, you're actually performing at a lower level. That means you have what? Negative momentum. Okay? And what I try to do in every area of my life is create momentum. Okay? I try to create momentum in every area of my life. Today my son's here running around, and his buddy is here with him too as well. And they had a phenomenal football season. It was unbelievable. And these guys have played together for years. But what I've always tried to do is try to help them create momentum. I can't get out on the field, right, and start playing the game. You guys get that? But what I can do is help them create momentum because I understand the psychology of how human beings are. I understand the psychology of how people operate mentally. So my objective is always to, guess what? Help them create momentum. And you can do that without playing. You can do that by, guess what? By influencing people. Okay? And I'm going to talk a little bit about how that works. But whenever you have no momentum, you're performing at a lower level than what you're capable of. And almost everything seems impossible. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about how to get momentum on your side. On the other hand, when you have momentum on your side, the future looks bright. Okay, and obstacles appear small. An organization with momentum is like a train moving on a track at 60 miles per hour. Let me give an example. And this is the example that John C. Maxwell teaches is this: is a train can go down a track at 60 miles an hour. And when that train is moving down the track at 60 miles an hour, guess what? It can slice through a concrete wall that's 6 feet thick. That's momentum. Okay, but that same train, if you put a little block right in front of its wheels, it won't move. Same train, what's the difference? Momentum. See, when you have momentum, you don't have problems. You don't have problems. Problems don't appear. Why? Because you've got everything going for you. So how do you create that momentum in your life? We're going to talk about it today. So today you guys are going to get some valuable information. So understand the importance first of momentum. Okay? Let me talk a little bit more about it. Here's some things that you need to know about, guess what? Momentum. Number one, momentum is the great exaggerator. Momentum is like a magnifying glass. Okay? It makes things look bigger than they really are. Okay? Because momentum has such a great impact, leaders try to control it. Okay? When you have momentum, you don't worry about small problems, and many large ones seem to work themselves out. So what I try to do in life, everything that I do, is to create momentum. Okay? That's the deal. Now, how do you create momentum? I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to share with you that today. But if you can get momentum on your side, you can do unbelievable things. Success in our business has to do with your ability to create momentum. The good news for all of you guys today is I know exactly how to do it. It's not a situation that it's like, hey man, I think I know. I've been doing it since I've learned this. I've been doing it since I've learned it. Non-stop. Okay, so momentum, understand, guess what? It's the leader's best friend. You've got to get momentum going. You've got to get momentum going. It's in school. When you were in school, when you were kids, right? We would get momentum on our sides, and you would start getting good grades. And then the momentum might shift, and you're not getting as good as grades because it's what? Momentum. In a relationship, you can create momentum. In every area of your life, you can create momentum. So how do you get momentum going? Okay, let's talk about it. All right. First thing we have to keep in mind is obviously what we just shared. And then the second thing is momentum makes leaders look better than they are. Momentum makes leaders look better than they are. When leaders have momentum on their side, people forget about their past mistakes. Okay? Once a leader creates some success for his organization, people give him more credit than he deserves. Momentum exaggerates a leader's success and makes him look better than he really is. So guess what? When you have momentum, people think you're better than you really are. That's momentum. When you got momentum on your side, you look like unbelievable. So people look at you and they're like, oh my God, you're amazing. It's not that you're really that good. You understand? You're not that good. The fact of the matter is, you just look like you're that good because you got what? Momentum. Okay? So understand that. Momentum, how powerful it is. Next thing we got to know about momentum is this. Momentum helps followers perform, guess what? Better than they are. When momentum is strong, people are motivated to perform at higher levels, making all participants more successful than they would be otherwise. So once you get momentum going on your side, guess what? Everybody in your team is having more success. Everybody's, because you create it. The prime example, and in John C. Maxwell's newer version of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, he talks about Jaime Escalante. Do you guys remember who Jaime Escalante is? Yes. Perfect. One person does. You guys, he was a teacher at Garfield High School, okay? How many of you guys ever seen that movie, Stand and Deliver? Do you guys remember that? Yes. They would show us that in school all the time. Right? I don't know if you guys remember that or not. Okay, we got one guy that saw it. Everybody else is nobody. It's like every teacher, that's their hero. Is Jaime Escalante. Like he's the hero of teaching. So like teachers would show us that, like thinking, hey, let's get everybody excited to get momentum, because he had momentum. And what happened was he went into Garfield High School. And Garfield High School wasn't the best high school on the planet. Okay, and he came in there, and there was a lot. When he came in there, there was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of drug dealing, a lot of gangs, a lot of violence. So he comes into this school, and there's like a lot of problems. And what he does is he takes a group of people, and they just become monsters at, guess what? Math. And he gets them performing like ridiculously, and they start just knocking home runs out of the park. And what happens is they have so many people that test so high, they think that he must be cheating. They said there's no way you can perform that well. It's impossible. It's impossible. It can't be done. So they make all the kids come in and individually take the test, and the same result happens. Nobody was cheating. He just really got kids to learn that much. And they're like, how could this happen, let alone in an area like Garfield High School? How did you get them to perform? And they couldn't figure it out. It was unbelievable. But what happened is next year, those people went on and he grabbed another group, and he kept developing, guess what? He kept developing people at an out-of-control rate. And now, even today, they have an unbelievable math program like 20 years later. Why is that? Because of what he did. Because he got momentum going. See, it's all about momentum. In that movie, it shows it's like, dude, these are kids that should not be hitting home runs. He's got them hitting home runs. You know, and you look at it in life, it's the same thing. See, if you can, guess what? Get the people on your team to get momentum, you're going to take over. You're going to take over. By default, you're going to win big. So let's talk about how do you do it, okay? How do you make it happen? How do you become a success? Okay, right here is what we have to know. Is this, okay, did you guys catch it? I hope you got it, because that's all. We're just going to give you a peek. Okay, here it is. So momentum is easier to steer than it is to start. Okay? Look, my mentor taught me about momentum. He said, once you get momentum, Tim, he goes, it's like being imagine a locomotive. And he goes, imagine being tied to the front of it. He goes, that's how you feel. You're like tied to a locomotive at full speed. That is momentum. Once you have momentum, and you're unstoppable. He's all, but you can't mess up. Because if you lose the momentum, you're going to lose everything. So you've got to get momentum, number one. And number two is you got to never lose it. He goes, he taught me how to respect momentum. And he taught me how to get momentum in our industry. But he says momentum is easier to steer than it is to start. Getting started is a struggle, but once you're moving forward, you really start to do something do amazing things. See, once you get momentum, man, you become unstoppable. Okay, how do you get momentum? We're going to talk about exactly how to do that. The good news is today I'm going to share with you guys that. Next thing, number 5 for your notes, what you need to know about momentum is this: momentum is the most powerful change agent. You guys see that? Give enough momentum, nearly any kind of change is possible in an organization. Followers trust leaders with a proven track record. They accept changes from people when they have led them to victory before. Momentum puts victory within people's reach. Okay? So what you got to realize is momentum is very similar to the law of victory. Very similar. Why? Because victory and momentum are tied together. And I'm going to explain to you guys what I mean in a second. Okay, but I want to make sure you guys get this, okay? Number 6 for your notes. Momentum is a leader's responsibility. It's your responsibility to create momentum. As a leader, you've got to learn, guess what? How to create momentum, okay? It's your responsibility. It takes a leader to create momentum. Okay? Followers cannot create momentum. It's impossible, okay? It takes a leader to create momentum. Followers, guess what, can catch it, all right? But creating momentum requires someone who has vision, can assemble a good team, and motivate others, okay? If a leader's waiting for an organization to develop momentum on its own, then the organization is in trouble. You understand? You can't wait for an organization to get momentum. Momentum is created. Momentum is created. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to create momentum for you and your organization today. It's the good news, okay? Next thing for your notes is this. Number 7, momentum begins inside the leader. You got to get this information under your belt. Why? Because it can alter your life. Okay? Watch this. Momentum begins inside the leader. It starts with vision, passion, and guess what? Enthusiasm. The leader most model those qualities to his people in a day and day out. So whenever you model those qualities to people day in and day out, okay, that's the key. You're going to attract like-minded people to your team, okay? Once you see forward progress, you will begin to generate momentum, okay? Once you have it, you can do almost anything. That's the power of the Big Mo. Once you have momentum, you guys, anything's possible. That's the difference, man. A lot of you right now, you're like, how do I make that big money? Like you're in the business, man. You might be in the business for like 6 months, and you're still like, dude, I'm not having the results I want, okay? All you need is momentum. You understand? I can tell you guys, when I got involved in network marketing, you guys know my background, I got involved when I was in high school. Okay? I was 17. I didn't know anything about anything, let alone about momentum. okay? And I worked in 6 months, not a lot happened, okay? But what happened is after 6 months, we got momentum. And I made $90,000 in 90 days at 18 years old. Do you guys see what happened? I was jacked. Can you guys picture that? Right? I was jacked out of my mind. You know, I was making so I didn't even have time to go spin. It was just ridiculous. When you're 18 years old and you make $90,000 in 90 days, you are jacked. Do you guys get that? I was buying the dumbest stuff on the planet. Do you guys get that? I mean, if you would have saw the stupid stuff I bought, you'd be like, that is the dumbest thing ever. Why would you do something so stupid? I mean, it was just ridiculous. I made so many poor choices, okay, when I was 18 years old because it happened so quickly. I'm just working my tail off, and all of a sudden, bam, momentum hits. Momentum hits. And I just didn't even know what to do with it. I didn't even know what to do with it. There was just so much money. It was ridiculous. You know, obviously now, I make a lot more money than I did back then, but back in those days, you know what I mean? 90,000 in 90 days was a lot of money. I was jacked sideways. I was out of control, fired up. I did not know what to do with it all. But what I realized was it was momentum. Looking back at it, I caught momentum. Some of you, when you catch momentum, you're going to freak out. You're going to freak out because it'll happen so quickly. It's kind of like, it's like my mentor told me, it's kind of like a well. When you're pumping a well, and you're pumping a well, and you're pumping a well, and there's no water coming out of that well, you're still pumping it, but nothing's coming out. Nothing's coming out of the well, and you're pumping the heck out of it, nothing's coming out, nothing's coming out, nothing's coming out. But that water's moving up, but you can't see it. Wow. The water's moving up, but you can't see it, so you're getting nothing, but you're pumping the hell out of this thing, right? He goes, if you stop, guess what happens? All that water goes all the way back down. But you don't even know how close you were to having the water come out. Damn. That's momentum. You understand? Once you get it, it's like a Chinese bamboo tree, right? A Chinese bamboo tree will grow 90 feet tall in 6 weeks. Wow. But it takes 5 years to get it to break through the ground. So you have to water it and fertilize it every day for 5 years. Then all of a sudden, once it comes to the ground, it'll shoot up 90 feet tall in 6 weeks. But does it take 6 weeks or 5 years? It takes 5 years. So you got to realize, once you get momentum, you freak out. You won't even know how to operate. You'll be like making so much money, you don't even know what to do with it. Okay? And then we're going to have different trainings. I'm going to teach you how to not blow all your money. Do you guys see that? Those are the funner trainings. Make sense? Don't spend it on this. Don't spend it on this. Don't buy this. Don't buy this. I'll show you pictures of me buying that stuff. Does that make sense? It did not make it. It didn't help, right? So you just got to be smart. But I'm going to teach you guys that. But first, we got to create momentum. So Peggy Wood was an actress, and she said, commitment is the igniter of momentum. Commitment is the igniter of momentum. Okay, here's what I'm going to do right now for you guys, is I'm going to teach you guys how to create momentum. Wow, oh my God. Okay, momentum, there's a book called The 17 Indispensable Qualities of a Team Leader by none other than John C. Maxwell. And in that book, he trains on a law called the law of high morale. Yeah. See, what happens is once you get high morale, once you have high morale in your organization, okay, that's where momentum comes from. High morale creates momentum. Okay? High morale creates momentum. Now, how do you create high morale? See, high morale, the law of high morale is created, guess what? Through the law of victory. Do you guys see that? I'm going to explain to you guys exactly how to do it right now. How do you create the law of victory? Okay? First, you have to have that mindset, right? But what you got to do is you got to connect with your people, right? You got to connect with them and get buy-in. And once you connect and get buy-in with your people, then guess what? You've got to get them results. So you can be the master of getting buy-in, and you can be the master of connecting with people, but if you don't lead them, you're not going to go anywhere. You understand that we could connect all day long and we can become, the best friends on the planet, and we can be high-fiving each other and we can be like, you know what I mean? All right, I'm so excited. But guess what? The law of connection, usually the people that are good at connecting aren't good at the law of victory. Just telling you guys. Why? Because people that are good at connecting typically are what we call, and you guys probably remember this when I taught the behavior matrix. Was anybody at the behavior matrix training? Yes. Okay, 5 of you guys were. Here's what I taught at the behavior matrix training for you guys that didn't get a chance to be there. There's just 4 types of personalities. Okay? Sharks are the ones that create momentum. Do you guys get that? Yeah. But here's the thing you got to realize. Okay? You can't create momentum if you're not a whale.
So true.
You understand that? So the whales are the ones that get buy-in and connection. Do you guys see that? The people that are the you know what I mean? The people that are there's I call them the lovers, right? There's lovers, leaders, you know what I mean, and losers. The lovers are the ones that you just, do you guys get it? The lovers are the ones that are just like, you know what I mean? I just want to just give you a big hug, you know what I'm saying? Let's go save some trees. Does that make sense? Right? Those are the people that are just like, they're cause-oriented, but they're the ones that create momentum because they, you understand, when you have that heart, but guess what? If you just have that heart and everybody loves each other and it's a big, you know what I mean? It's a big hippie fest. Do you guys see that? And everybody's just like, we love each other. Does that make sense? But there's no, guess what? Moving into action, you're never going to create momentum. So you got to have that law of connection, that law of buy-in. Law of connection gets you the law of buy-in. Does that make sense? But you're not going to keep it if you don't get the law of solid ground under your belts, right? That's what keeps everything. If you don't have the law of solid ground, nothing's going to work. So you have to have that law of solid ground. You have to know that, guess what? You've got to have your integrity. You've got to, you know what I'm saying, have that character. That's what keeps it all in place. That's the foundation which leadership is built on. Do you understand that? So you have that in place now. You say, look, you know what? That makes sense. Then guess what? You get buy-in by doing what? How do you get the law of buy-in going in your life? The law of connection. Once you get that law of connection going in, you've got to then implement, guess what? The law of victory. Do you guys see that? And once you get the law of victory, guess what? Okay, then you're going to get momentum going. Because now the morale of your organization is going to be high. So let me explain this to you guys. Look. Now that's where the controllers come in. Okay? Now, the analyzers, guess what they do? They're good at navigating, right? The analyzers, right, the urchins are like, okay, we have to watch out for potential pitfalls. Okay? And they watch, and they're like, okay, wait a second, this is messed up, this isn't right, this isn't right. And they're very smart and they're aware. And then the promoters, guess what they do? They keep the momentum going. Why? Because they're talking about how great it is. Do you see that? They're promoting it. They're making everybody get excited. So then that's where your dolphins come in. You understand that? So everything's important in order to create momentum. Every personality is important. So we got to create momentum. How do we do that? We've got to start getting victory in your organization. Victory creates high morale. High morale is created, okay, by victory. See, when someone gets a promotion and they get recognized, how do they feel? Are they excited or not? Yes. So when you get a promotion and you rank advance, you're excited, yes or yes? Yes. Right? The key is how many people can you up rank advance? See, right now, you've got to make a decision. The company right now is doing an iPad promotion, yes or yes? Yes. What we have to do is you got to get iPads going out to all your brand new agents. What happens if your agents get a brand new iPad? They're fired up. They're jacked out of their head. You understand that? How do you get them an iPad? You got to get them obviously qualified for it. So that's your job as a leader, is to connect with your people, get buy-in, and then get them the iPad. And once they do, they're going to be fired up. And once they're fired up, that's what's going to create the momentum. You understand? If you have everybody running around talking about how they got a brand new iPad from secret, they're fired up. So we've got to make sure, guess what? You make a decision that every agent on your team is going to get an iPad. Now, how do you make sure every agent does? You build this business one brick at a time, okay? 1 inch at a time. So does everybody have a better picture of how important momentum is? Yes or yes? Yes. How many of you are committed to getting momentum under your belt? Say aye. Aye. All right, now's the time. Let's get committed to making it happen, okay?